How's it going, everyone? It's Caleb here, and today we are going to be going over some footage of a couple of different game hunts that I went on to. First, we're going to be showing this game world here. This game world, I was looking at a lot of handheld games. I was looking at handheld games the entire time, and I saw some interesting stuff. I was looking at the imports. I don't have a DS currently, but I saw these Unazuma's 11. I hope that's how you say that, but it is a soccer RPG, and I think they look really cool, and I've always been jealous that those never came out in America. I wish we would get some of those games in English, because I highly doubt I would be able to play them in the Japanese language. I also saw this Beyblade here. I like Beyblade a lot. I actually like this anime. I believe this is Metal Fusion. But the problem is, again, the language barrier may be a little bit difficult on some of these anime games. It probably wouldn't be too bad on that one. But to be fair, I also don't currently have a DS, so that could be a problem. I've thought about picking up a DS to play like the Pokemon games and stuff, but man, those Pokemon games just keep going up in price, so I just haven't done it yet. I thought it was cool to see a Wii Sports Japanese version. I've never actually seen the Japanese case for the Wii Sports game, so that was kind of neat. But yeah, I was looking at all the imports. They have an entire section of imports. I love seeing the Crash Bandicoot art from Japan because he has the 5 fingers instead of the 4 fingers, which I always found kind of interesting. There's a lot of kind of like meaning for the 4 fingers in Japan. It means like death, I believe. So they gave Crash Bandicoot an extra finger in Japan, which is kind of interesting. But I was also looking at the Game Boy games. There was quite a few Game Boy games, but nothing too crazy that I saw except for Dogs. Dogs is an interesting one, and they had it sealed brand new, which was really cool, but I don't really collect cardboard packaging. I don't collect, the old Game Boy cases and stuff like that because they're just cardboard. But it was cool to see because me and my brother used to actually play that game a ton. We played the PC version of it, and I didn't even know that was on the Game Boy Color. So to see that was actually really neat, and I was tempted by it. But again, I don't need the box. I don't need all that stuff because I don't collect the cardboard boxes for Game Boy games, It's just not something that I go after. If it was a console box, it'd be a little bit different, but since it's just that, wasn't too interested. Seeing the Game Boy Pokemon games, seeing Pokemon Yellow and Pokemon Blue in the box was pretty cool, but those price tags are just crazy on them. I don't know why anyone would ever pay that much for a video game. I'm just going to be honest. I would never, ever in my life spend $1,000 on a video game. It would never happen. It's just not worth it. If you want Pokemon, I'm going to be real with you. With the rising prices of these games, there's a lot of sellers that do reproduction carts. At some point, it's just worth it to just pick up a reproduction cart instead. After Game World, I went to one of my favorite places, Disc Replay, because they have such a great selection of Game Boy games, and look what I saw there. They had Dogs without the case, which was pretty cool. However, I did not get it. My brother was with me, and he got it instead. I wanted him to have that game because he likes that game more than I do. He cares about the game more than I do. But it was cool to see, and I'm glad that we were able to find a loose copy. He actually got a couple Game Boy games. He got the Dogs game, and he got something else. I can't remember what it was off the top of my head. I believe it was F-18, I think is what it was. It was a flying game. I know that. But just seeing all these Game Boy games is awesome, and it's just always great to look at all of these different ones. I saw that Japanese game right there. I think it's not Monogatari. It's Monomatoro or something like that. I don't know how to say it, but it's like a board game, Japanese like board game. And I always get tempted to pick those up because I like board game video games, but I just didn't do it. I looked at the Super Nintendo games. Nothing too crazy. There was nothing really just like calling out to me or anything like that. There's still some Super Nintendo games I'd like to pick up. I'd like to pick up, there's a Porky Pig game that I'd like to pick up on the Super Nintendo, and I just haven't really found it yet. And I've seen it at the store before, but I didn't see it when I was just kind of like glancing over it, and it wasn't really my main concern today. My main concern was mainly Game Boy games. I'm just in a huge Game Boy mood, so I'm looking at Game Boy games. I'm looking at Game Boy Advance games. That's what I'm looking for. And there's always quite a few Game Boy games in here, and I wasn't sure exactly what I was going to be looking for today, but I did find some stuff that I thought was pretty interesting. Some 3D games, and whenever I have the chance to pick up some 3D games on the Game Boy Advance, I always do it, because even though they may not play very well always, the fact that they're even able to run on the Game Boy Advance impresses me. But they had just they have such a great selection of them. I saw they had Big Mother Truckers on the Game Boy Advance. Again, just another 3D game that's just impressive that they're even able to get it to run. Now, the footage here is actually from another disc replay. This one has again, just a great selection. All these if you have a disc replay anywhere near you, go check it out because they have just some of the best selections of video games. And I found some more Game Boy Advance games here, and I was very happy to find the games that I did find. And I also found some PlayStation 2 games as well. I'm always looking for PS2 stuff, and I'm always looking for Game Boy Advance games. But you can see here, I was still looking in the Super Nintendo stuff. I always want to find Super Nintendo games, but honestly, I'm never sure what to look for on the Super Nintendo. I feel like I have a lot of the stuff that I like, so I'm just not willing to buy a whole lot on the Super Nintendo. I need to look into it more and see what other games are on there, but prices are expensive for it, and a lot of those pricier games I don't want to take the risk on. So, I got to do more research on it. But here's the Game Boy Color games. Some interesting ones there. They had Austin Powers on the Game Boy Color. I probably should have gotten that one. That's one that I've actually been wanting for a while. I don't know why I didn't get that one, but the fact that Austin Powers has a video game is amazing, honestly. I love those movies, and the game, I don't know if I'd say it looks good, but the fact that it even exists is something that is really cool. It's actually, I believe, published by Rockstar too, which is really funny. But always interested in looking at the Game Boy Advance games, or the Game Boy Color games, or Game Boy Advance games. And I also saw that they had Mickey Mouse USA, I think it's USA Speedway or something like that. And I didn't even know that was on the Game Boy Color. I know that it was on the N64, but I did not know that was on the Game Boy Color. See Toy Story there. The Toy Story games I've heard a lot of good things about, but I haven't really dived into them. Always look at the original Game Boy games too. But my main thing is, of course, the Game Boy Advance. And you can see I see some Beyblade games there. I always get tempted by Beyblade games. You saw me looking at them earlier in the video. I think they're cool, but the Beyblade games I have played haven't actually been very good, if I'm being honest. So I'm always kind of back and forth on those. I see Digimon there. Digimon is always cool to see, even though the video games for Digimon can be very hit or miss. But the main thing that I saw that I got excited about in this case was actually they have some Yu-Gi-Oh games. Now, I know someone is going to bring up the fact that a lot of these Yu-Gi-Oh games on the Game Boy Advance are going to be put onto the Switch, or already have been put onto the Switch at this point with the Yu-Gi-Oh Early Days Collection, I believe is what it's called. However, I still like owning the original games. I still like playing the original games. So if I see those original games, especially ones that I'm really interested in, I'm probably going to pick them up. And I did pick them up. I saw some ones I really wanted, and you'll see them later on in this video. I also saw this Extreme G. This is one of the Extreme G sequels. I believe this is I want to say this is the fourth one. There's, I think, 4 different Extreme G games. I have the 2 on the N64, and I think I have the full set now. I may be missing Extreme G3, but I'm not sure. I'd have to look at my collection again. But seeing that was a no-brainer. The Extreme G games are awesome, and I had to pick that one up for sure. But I was looking at the PS2 games. I was looking for Warhammer again, Fire Soldier. I saw it in an old video last year. I should have just picked it up then. I don't know why I passed on it. I should have gotten it. I'm still kicking myself in the butt for not picking that one up. But I was looking for it here, and unfortunately, no dice. Lots of Thrillville, though. Thrillville is a great game. If you've never played Thrillville, that's a fantastic roller coaster game where you build your own roller coasters and everything. That is something that I think everyone who has a PS2 should eventually play at some point. And I wish they would bring it back. That's such a fantastic series. We need more games that just focus on like fun building and just fun in general. Bring back fun video games. But yeah, I was looking at all this stuff. Resident Evil, that one, I don't know what that Resident Evil game actually is. I think it might be a light gun game. But I saw Rainbow Six here. I do like to pick up these Rainbow Six games. And this one was really cheap, $2.99. And actually, when I got to the counter, the person just gave me the game instead. So that was actually awesome. So I'm glad to have that in the collection. I'm glad that I got it for the best price possible, free. So that was pretty cool to find. And, again, there's just this library for the PS2 is so big, and it's always cool to see things that you don't have for it. And I have over 100 PS2 games at this point, and I just keep finding things that I don't have. But this was a cool one that I saw. This is like a game where you're like playing with they're like teddy bear plushy characters, but they have guns and they're like shooting each other. It looks violent and it looks like a lot of fun, so I picked that one up. That was one that I definitely had to add to the collection as well. It's one that I've seen before, and I think I saw it in like an old Game Chasers video as well. And I always thought it looked cool, and I didn't have it, so to find it in person finally for a fair price, I was pretty happy with that. Oh wait, no, I've already did the intro. It's Caleb back with the pickups. So I did get things that I was actually wanting and stuff that I was happy to find. So first things first, you can see Fur Fighters right here. Vigo's Revenge, I think that's how you pronounce that. Maybe Vigo. But this is a funny looking third-person shooter where you play as like these little stuffed animal looking characters, and it's a third-person shooter, so you're just shooting up other stuffed animals. So kind of funny, and only $6.99. It's one that I've been wanting for a while, and when I saw it for that price, I thought that was pretty good. It does have the manual and everything with it, so not too bad. Pretty happy with that pickup. Now the person at the register actually gave me some extra deals too. I don't know why, but I wasn't going to turn it down. I was happy about it. So they gave me Rainbow Six 3. I was already going to pick it up because it was only $2.99, but they just gave it to me for free. So that was pretty cool. But I got that. I liked the Rainbow Six series, and I haven't played this one before, but the cover looks pretty cool. Has someone with the G36C, one of my favorite guns of all time, on the front there, so that's pretty cool. And I'm looking forward to trying this out and talking about it on the channel eventually. And I also picked up Extreme G Racing Association. Now, this is another one of the Extreme G games. These were originally on the N64, and the Extreme G games on the N64 are amazing. If you have not played those, you definitely need to. I have not played this one personally, and I'm looking forward to trying it out. This one was only $5, and it looks like it's going to be pretty darn cool. I love these games. I love futuristic racing games, and this one just looks like, the next step of the Extreme G series, so I'm excited to check that out. This is the Yu-Gi-Oh! Double Pack. Now, you can pick up both the games on here on separate cartridges. In fact, they had both games in store on separate cartridges. However, I decided to go with the Double Pack. Why did I do that? Well, because the Double Pack, you can see $14.99 for this, and it would have been $12.99 a piece to get the separate cartridges instead. So it made more sense to get the double pack that has both games on one cartridge instead of just getting both games on separate cartridge. So that's why I did that. And the nice thing is that the other ones, like I said, the separate games, they were $12.99 a piece, I believe. This was $14.99. However, when I got up to the register, the person gave me a deal on this and said, you know what? Here you go. You can have this for $12.99 as well. So I got this for $12.99, which is pretty awesome. And this has 2 Yu-Gi-Oh! RPGs on there. It has the Sacred Cards and something about Inferno. I don't remember. Something that has to do with fire is the name of the other Yu-Gi-Oh! Game. I gotta be honest. When it comes to Yu-Gi-Oh! Games and Yu-Gi-Oh! Stuff, they overcomplicate a lot of things. So the name of it is kind of out there. So, but either way, 2 Yu-Gi-Oh! RPGs on this. Looking forward to playing those and talking about them on the channel. So I was, of course, in a Game Boy Advance mood. You guys know I love the Game Boy Advance. Here's the games I picked up. So this one, actually, I did not pick up today, but it did show up in the mail, so I wanted to go ahead and show it to you guys. This is Crash Nitro Kart on the Game Boy Advance. I've already been playing this quite a bit, and I really love this game. So this is a really good one, and I look forward to talking about that on the channel some more later on. But the ones that I actually picked up at the store, I picked up the Flintstones Big Trouble in Bedrock. I've always wanted a Flintstones video game, and I finally found this one, and I figured why not go ahead and pick it up. Picked up Lego Bionicle. I never had any Bionicle as a kid, but I always wanted them when I was a kid. I remember seeing them on the store shelves and always wanting them and just never being able to get them. But I think that this is a pretty cool looking game. I looked up some of the gameplay for it, and it definitely looks unique. So I'm excited to check that one out. Here is SpongeBob SquarePants, Atlantis SquarePantis. I'm trying to collect the SpongeBob games on the Game Boy Advance, and I'm pretty sure I almost have them all now. There may be a couple that I don't have, but I'm getting really close to a complete collection of those, I believe. Here is SimCity 2000. I did not know SimCity was actually on the Game Boy Advance, but I saw that, and I figured why not go ahead and pick it up. And I got Need for Speed Underground. This is a really cool 3D racing game on the Game Boy Advance. Yes, this is also on the PS2, and that's actually how I played the Need for Speed Underground games growing up. I played them on the PS2. But They are on the Game Boy Advance, and they are 3D still, which is really impressive. And speaking of Need for Speed Underground, here is the sequel to it as well, which is also in 3D. And I've already played a little bit of this one, and the fact that they're able to get that game to run on the Game Boy Advance, and the fact that it looks so smooth, is really, really impressive. Now, that's not the only thing I got. I actually did get a Game Boy SP. I did not have a Game Boy SP in my collection. I had a Game Boy Advance, but I did not have the Game Boy Advance SP. And whenever I record my Game Boy games, I usually just use my Retron 5. But it's going to be nice to be able to actually have a screen that's has a light on it already without me having to do anything else to it. It's not backlit, but the fact that it does have just a light on it in general is really nice, and it's in really good condition. It looks really nice, so I'm very happy with that. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. I think it looks pretty good, and it's nice to have this just a Game Boy SP. I always wanted one, and I remember playing my cousin's Game Boy SP when I was a kid. So to finally be able to have one, it's pretty nice, honestly. So I mean, it looks pretty darn good too. I'm pretty happy with it, and the condition is really nice. So yeah, there's that. So that is these are all my pickups for today. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe button down below. I will see you in the next one. You have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.